Hey guys, Joe here, the Rebels Advocate. Let's talk for a little while. I make these videos for different reasons. Sometimes because I just have something I want to say, an opinion to get out there. Out of the millions of opinions out there, I think mine matters for some reason, so I want to put it out there in the universe. Sometimes I make videos because I'm ticked off about something, as you've probably seen in the past, and I just want to, again, voice my opinion like it matters. And sometimes I make videos because, well, I can't afford a therapist. And this is one of those times, this is one of those videos I'm making because I can't afford a therapist. I just want to talk through some stuff. I don't have an opinion I'm putting out there. I definitely don't have any answers I'm putting out there in this video. I just want to talk through some things. I said I just got back from a funeral today, which, always has you thinking about death and things of that nature. And I alluded to the fact in my last video that there was some sickness in my family and we're going through some stuff. So I warning, this video might be a little personal. It could get a little wooey. I don't know, and it's definitely a bit random and I don't know. It's going to be a video with a lot of questions and not a whole lot of answers. But that's okay. So, just to kind of get the personal stuff out of the way, my stepdad's been sick for a while. He's been pretty bad off, feeling pretty bad. And he's been convinced, and he told my mom he's convinced that he had cancer, that he had stomach cancer. But going to the doctors back and forth, and they can't find anything. And he's also dealing with a lot of pain with his rotator cuff. And the doctors have been looking at that, trying to figure out what to do. They were looking at doing therapy and possible surgery down the line. The main thing was this other thing. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. He was convinced he had cancer. The doctors can't find anything. They're running all these different tests. And he had no appetite. It's like he couldn't eat anything. He hurt a lot. But he did eventually, he wanted to be tested for cancer. He was convinced that that's what he had. And the doctors did clear him of that and told him, they didn't know what was wrong with him, but he didn't have cancer. So that was definitely some good news we were all glad to hear. And then time goes on, they still can't find out what's wrong with him. He's seen a couple different doctors. And flash forward to a couple weekends ago. My family, my wife and I and my daughter and my sister and brother-in-law and their 3 boys, we all went to Dollywood down Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Dolly Parton's theme park, amusement park, whatever, Dollywood. If you live around here, it's, that's where you go. It's the closest amusement park. But where I work, they give all the employees tickets and their family tickets and food vouchers, and so it's a nice deal. And my brother-in-law and sister, they have season passes there, so they went with us. And we're down there, and we're having a pretty good day, having a good time. It was really hot, and somewhere during the day, my mom messaged and said they were taking my stepdad to the emergency room. So his kidneys weren't working. It's taking him to the emergency room. And of course, this worried us a good deal. But my sister and I was talking. It's like, maybe this is the best thing these doctors, they can't find out what's wrong. Maybe he goes in the emergency room, they'll actually buckle down and figure out what's going on, what is wrong. And we don't really know what to do. Should we go back? We're 3 hours away from home. Mom's kind of, like, don't worry about it, have a good day. Everything, just want to let us know what's going on. So, honestly, I didn't, I was concerned, but I almost felt like maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this will get some answers, So we went about our day. Like I said, it's really hot. So, my brother-in-law actually watched the baby for a while, and me and my wife, we took the boys, and my sister joined us for a little while, and we hit some water rides to cool off and got nice and wet, and that was a good time. And lines were pretty long, but the water rides moved pretty fast, so it wasn't horrible, but we had a good time. And it was starting to get late in the evening, and we still hadn't even made it up to where all the roller coasters were. So it's like, if we're going to ride some roller coasters, we need to get up there. So we get up there and get ready to get on the first roller coaster, me and my oldest nephew. And we had a message, because we hadn't had our phones for a while where we was on water rides. And we had a message on the phone from Mom to call us, and my sister called, and we're kind of standing around seeing what's going on, because anytime you get that message, it just says call me, it's very seldom a good thing. And my sister's over there on the phone, and I see her crying, and I know something's not right, and we're trying to figure out what it is. And she's still on the phone, and she just turns and says, it's cancer. And it was like getting punched. It was because when you hear that word, when you hear that, the C word, the cancer, it just feels like more often than not, at least, lately, and in my family and people I've known, it almost seems like a definite death sentence. And we're trying to figure out what is it. And so flash forward to now, what I don't know a whole lot. There's still tests going on, and I don't know how the original doctors missed it, but apparently what my stepdad's been saying for a long time, what he thought he had, he was right. From what I know, it's colon cancer, and it's spread to his stomach, and they can't operating on it isn't an option. And it's been rough. And you guys know how I am, with family. Is just, that's all that matters in this world to me. And when one of those people are, something like this happens to, it's a tough blow. But I'm trying to remain hopeful and positive. And the doctors, they haven't asked, I talked to my mom about this today. They haven't asked the doctors, if they're giving him a time period, or if they think he has so much time or whatever. They haven't asked that question, but I do know the doctor that's in charge, and this isn't the original doctors that couldn't find the cancer, but the doctor that's in charge is supposed to be a good doctor, and he told him, not to be negative, and not to give up, that it's not curable, but he said there were a lot of ways to treat this, and and so I'm hoping and I'm being positive, but you can't help your mind going to the worst, and it's just, and I lost my real dad when I was probably a couple weeks. I mean, a month, not a couple weeks, a month and a half before I turned 17. And that was a rough blow for me, and the circumstances around it. It was hard, and it's still hard to this day, even all these years later. But you know, you learn. You never forget them. You never get over it. But you learn. Your life changes. Your life completely changes. But it's a different life, you know. You survive, you adapt, you move on. And you know, my stepdad, I've never lived under the same roof as my stepdad, but he's just been the best guy you could ask for, the best poppy to the grandbabies, and you know, nobody can step in and take your dad's place, right? But he stepped in and he filled a hole that we had. You know, our family, it just felt broken. You felt, you know, I don't know how to describe it. You just felt like, you know, Christmas time rolled around, you felt like you was the family everybody felt sorry for or something. It's like, we're trying to act like we're a family, but there's an obvious piece missing. He stepped in, he filled that hole. And he made us a family again. And so, you know, so I'm sorry, I won't do this a whole lot during this video, I promise, once I get past this part. But the thoughts of him not being there, the thoughts of my baby not having a poppy, you know, is tough. Because I want her to grow up and know him, and, you know. And those 3 boys, my nephews, they love him to death. And then to think of my poor mom, who's done went through this once, and you don't want to see her go through it again, you know, at least not for a really long time. So, you know, that's rough. And so we're all worried about this and going through all that. And then I'm going to work the other day, and I get a message, and a friend of the family, they just found her dead at work. Just someone who seemed perfectly fine, perfectly healthy, and she was here one minute and gone the next. And a wife, a wonderful woman. And I didn't know her extremely well, but I grew up with her kids, and she's just a great woman, a great wife and mother, and she had little grandbabies who loved her to death. And then, so that's the funeral we were at tonight. And, you know, here we are worried about our own situation, and then here's these people who just out of the blue, boom, their life has turned upside down. And I was shocked to hear this news, and I can't even imagine what they're going through. And not that my family's special with what we're going through, and not that this family is special with what they're going through. This happens every day to some family. Just unspeakable tragedies happen every day, things that you think there's no way you can deal with. You know, you're worried about, you know, maybe your grandma dying and somebody lost their grandbaby, you know, every day. Like, just unspeakable things happen. Life sucks. And I want to talk about it for a little while. Again, this is just therapy for me, because I don't have any answers. But I've been thinking about death a lot. I think about death all the time, way before any of this happened. And maybe it's because, you know, I lost my dad at a young age. Because when I lost my dad, I was a Christian, or I believed in God, and so at that time you kind of believe there is someone in control. So, and you try not to question that deity, that all loving, all powerful God. And I'm not going to try to make this video that religious, but I am going to kind of speak on from my point of view, which is an atheist point of view. Okay, this isn't an argument or a debate about whether there's a heaven or none of that. It's just I'm just speaking from my point of view. Okay, so when I was a believer, you kind of believe there's this purpose, and so the old saying of "you think it can never happen to me." I feel like it gives some credence to that, because you kind of feel like, well, God's not going to put more on me than I can bear. Like, sure, everybody loses someone, but it's not going to be that bad. And I guess when you lose your dad at the age I did, like, suddenly you realize you're not safe, like, from losing anyone. Anybody could be gone at any time. And that's why I've said it multiple times. If you've watched all my videos, then you've probably heard me, you've probably seen me crack up in videos that I'm not, remotely talking about anything sad. When I'm just talking about how much I love my wife and my little girl, and you've probably seen me choke up. Because I think about it every day. I think about how it could be my last day with them. But I just realized that from an early age, and even before my dad was gone, like, I don't know, there was just still some sort of realization about that. Like, we've been a little different than most families. Like, growing up in our family, you couldn't go outside and get them. You couldn't go, to go get our mail, you got to go a few hundred yards down the road. But you couldn't go off the hill to get the mail without getting, a hug and goodbye and be careful. And so, I'm not saying that our family, I'm not saying that my family's closer than your family, or anything like that. I'm just saying we've always had some realization that life is short, life is fragile. And that's something, I guess, that my mom and dad drilled into me, and I don't know where that came from for them. I'm sorry. I have a tickle in my throat. But it's always been there. Man, I swear, this is going to be a rambling video. But, so, knowing that from a young age, it's just, in some ways, it makes me appreciate life more. And in other ways, it can be tormenting at times. I think it's good to realize that and to think that, but it's not good to dwell on it 24/7. And sometimes I might dwell on it a little more than I should, if I'm being honest. So, one of the things, if I do these videos, I want to be honest. I want to have real conversations. And I feel like sometimes we can't do that, because when we're having these conversations, we're having like debates, arguments, whatever, my point, what I believe versus what you believe. I feel like a lot of times we're more concerned with winning the argument. And the truth is, you can't have honest conversations if all you're worried about is winning the argument. And I'm guilty of this myself. You have two guys sit down. It can be something as innocent as, one guy's a Ford guy and the other guy's a Chevy guy, and they're arguing about which is better, Ford or Chevy. And they're debating all, durability and which one gets the best gas mileage, which one has the best towing capabilities, and all of this. And maybe the Chevy guy, in the back of his brain, he knows something that the Ford guy doesn't know, and that is, just a month ago, he's taking his family on vacation, and he gets halfway across the country, and his Chevy broke down on him. There he was, stranded with his family on the side of the interstate because his Chevy didn't get him where he needed to go. Now, if he was to tell the Ford guy that, would that mean the Chevy guy lost the argument? No, it's ridiculous. You know, because, I mean, everybody knows, like, that could have just as easily been a Ford, right? Fords break down every single day. Chevys break down every single day. You haven't lost the argument. But why wouldn't the Chevy guy even mention that? Why would he hide it, you know? Well, because he knows, even though the Ford guy knows that, you know, that wouldn't lose or win the argument, he's going to use it against the Chevy guy, right? And the Chevy guy would do the same thing to the Ford guy. If they were being truly honest with one another, they would, you know, the Chevy guy might say, you know what, Chevys have let me down from time to time. It's happened, but overall, and more times than not, they've been reliable. They've been in my family for years, and they've always got us where we need to go. They've been durable, reliable, they've lasted us a long time. The Ford guys say, you know what, same here. You know, we've always owned Fords. They've been durable and reliable. Sure, been a couple times we've been stranded beside the road, broke down. But, you know, it happens. It happens to everybody. Maybe, as it turns out, maybe there is no real answer. Maybe Chevy's the best vehicle for you. Maybe Ford's the best vehicle for me, you know? Maybe. I think the same thing happens with atheists. There's a couple things that a lot of times, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe more people's more willing to talk about it than I think, but I think a lot of times there's a couple topics we kind of shy away from, because even though it wouldn't lose the argument, we know it would be used against us in an argument. And a couple of those things. And if you're an open atheist, and people know you're an atheist, and you live in a religious part of the world, there's probably a couple things that you get thrown in your face a ton. And I know I have. And it's, if you don't believe in God, first of all, you know, then what do you think happens when you die? How meaningless is that? Do you really think you just die and nothing happens? That's so sad. That's so sad. And so, now we know that's not going to, how does that lose the argument? Because whether or not it's sad or not has nothing to do with what's true. It has nothing to do with what's real. The second thing they'll say to you is, you know, if there's no God, if you have no belief in any deity, then what's the meaning of life? What's the purpose? And that also relates to if you don't believe in heaven. Like, if there's nowhere to go when you die, if you just die and you die, then what's the purpose? What's the meaning of life? Where do you get, you know, any purpose or meaning whatsoever? So, and we kind of brush that off and kind of scoff at it, because it does seem silly to think, just because I don't believe in God, my life holds no meaning. And I think I've talked about that before. You know, I find lots of I feel like I find more meaning than I would. Goodness gracious, this is ridiculous. I feel like I swallowed a bug. That's a great time for this to happen, like, while I'm filming a video. And see, I'm so professional, there's no way I'm going to stop and re-record this so y'all don't have to listen to me hack. No, I can't do that, because then I would have to say everything I just said, and it would feel so fake to repeat myself. I hate repeating myself. So I'll just suffer through it, if y'all can. It'll get better. But I always felt like, you know, kind of I have more meaning in life, because I don't believe in an afterlife. Therefore, every day is special. And, you know, this is my heaven. Right here, as crappy as it can get at times, this is my heaven. Every time I hold my little girl, every time I kiss my wife, every moment I spend with my family, that's heaven right there. This is as good as it gets for me, as far as I believe. And we'll talk about later, like, what I don't know, what could be that I don't know. But I think there are days when I wake up and I do think, what is the purpose? What is the meaning of life? If I just live and die, then, what does any of this mean? And I think we're afraid to say that out loud because we feel like it's losing the argument. And the same thing is with being afraid to die. If you say, I'm afraid to die, then, that's going to be thrown up in your face. That, as if you're losing the argument, because Christians claim to have, they've conquered the fear of death. They have heaven. So dying's actually a good thing. And it's a comfort to them. But it's even a comfort to the people left behind, because now it's not goodbye, it's I'll see you later, right? I'll see you in heaven. The poor, sad atheist doesn't have that. And so you're losing an argument on merit of your story is sad and more pitiful. Poor little atheist doesn't have that. But look at us over here, we're happy. We get to all meet again. The religious people, they definitely have a better story, right? A happy ending. But it doesn't win them the argument at all. It doesn't make it more true because it's a better sounding ending or any of that. So I'm going to talk about my fears because it doesn't lose the argument, and I don't care if it does right now, because I just want to talk about it. And maybe there's some people out there who feel the same way. And lately, right now, my biggest fear is that I'm just going to go into a coughing fit and die right here on this video. Wouldn't that be ironic? Did I use the word ironic right? I don't know. Lately, I've had this weird thought, and it's kind of aggravated me. And I've been thinking about time. Not necessarily time in general, but it has to do with time. And, first of all, what is time? I tried to Google it before I made this video. And I'll just tell you, I went to Google it and my phone, the Google letters started melting and my phone started smoking. And then I was like, was there a beginning to time? Again, my other phone started melting and smoking. Or maybe it was just the smoke that was coming from my head as I was trying to read through some of it. I didn't read very much because I don't even understand. Time just seems, it just is, to me, you know what I mean? I mean, some scientists can sit down and explain exactly what time is. It just, I don't have a very good understanding of it. I don't understand how time changes relative to where you are, in the universe or whatever. It just seems like a second is a second, and if you're at another point in the universe right now, it may be different, but it feels like you're still right now, you could count time the same way I do. It'll be completely different. You're not going by the sun going around, but time passes the same. Does that make sense? I don't know. It just seems like the numbers, time, I don't think of time as the numbers on a clock. It just is. It's just a flow of things. And that's just my hillbilly understanding of it, right? I feel like, all the numbers and the clocks and what we've set is just, of course, it's something we designed around the repeating of something, right? Initially, I imagine you kind of set it to what you thought was the sun going up and coming down, sun coming up and going down, sun coming up and going down. Then we figured out, it's not the sun, it's us. It's us going around. So we start measuring time that way, how many trips we make around the sun, how many trips the Earth makes around. We start measuring time that way. But to me, actual time is just a flow. It's just right here, right now. Okay, right now is different than a while ago when I said right here, right now. Remember that when I said right here, right now? That's in the past. I can't go back to that. I can't. It's done. It's just a flow. Like, it just keeps flowing. And so I think of time, and maybe there was a beginning, right? What was, Google that, you know, what happened before the Big Bang? What set off the Big Bang? This is a big argument that creationists try to use. Like, you can't explain it, so therefore God, right? And no, not therefore God. Just because we can't understand something, you can't just fill in the blanks with something that's even a bigger mystery, you know, like, because I could plug anything into that, right? Again, I said I wasn't going to make this a religious debate, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to pretend that there's not a religious person watching this. No judgments, okay? But the truth is, we don't know how that happened. How can something come from nothing? Actually, we don't know. I don't know. Do you know? If you know, I think maybe there's some people that'd like to hear what you have to say, if you have the answer to that. Don't know. Was there anything before the Big Bang? Was there another universe, another time, another dimension, another whatever? We don't know. Have no idea. But so I think of time as, like, the best way I can think of it is being infinite. All right, here's the stretch of time. It's this long line, and it goes forever that way, and forever that way, and it's just a linear line. Joe, why would you think of time as a linear? This is my example. Let me have it. So it's just forever that way, and right in the middle, not in the middle, there's no middle, I don't guess, because it goes forever that way. I guess anywhere could be the middle, right? But somewhere in this infinite line, there's this tiny blip, smaller than my fingers, probably smaller than my fingernail, thinner than a hair, but it's just, if you can imagine it, just right here, just this tiniest blip. And that blip is my existence. This entire infinite line of existence, which contains the existence of everything, right? And even the pre-existence. Like, this tiny blip is right here. Now, everything from this point of that blip back is without me in it. There's no me here. No me whatsoever. Now, here's the thing. While there's no me, like, imagining my non-existence is almost impossible for me. I can't imagine it, even though I know before 1979 there was no Joe. There was no Joe. And actually, most of 1979 there was no Joe. There was a Joe in a mommy's belly, I guess, but I didn't come along till like October. So, you know, most of 1979, 1978, there was no Joe at all. Nobody even knew about Joe. Not this Joe. And you go back as far as you can go, all the way to the beginning of the universe, and even further if there's anything beyond that. No me, I didn't exist. And here's the thing, there was no me to know that I didn't exist. I had no way of knowing that I did not exist. So I didn't even think about it. I couldn't think about it. There was no me to think about it. It didn't bother me in the slightest. Now, that's kind of, for some reason, fairly easy for me to understand. Of course, I didn't know anything. There was no me to know anything. And then, boop, here I am. Here I am right now. Now I exist. Now I matter. Now time, like, this is the only time that means anything to me. Is all right here. Now here's the thing. What about all this space that goes forever in this line? This is also existence without me in it. It's existence of everything else that exists at the time, but not me. I won't be in it. I was right here. This tiny blip. Now, as much as back here, I didn't know, I had no knowledge of my future existence. On this side, as far as I know, and to the best of my knowledge and my beliefs, I will have no knowledge of my pre-existence. There will be no me to look back on this. So if there's no knowledge of my existence here, there's no knowledge of my existence here, then do I even exist? There will be no me to look back and remember any of this. There was no me to look forward to any of this. Then why does this even matter? And why would I see any meaning in this existence right here? You know, when I say, oh, life is all about living in the moment, enjoying life for right now, although in a blink of an eye, not only will it be gone, but all thoughts, all recollections, all anything of this little sliver in this entire timeline, like it's all gone. There's nothing. There's no looking back. Then who's to say I even exist? Technically I exist. But I'm no different than the ant that gets stepped on. You know? That ant didn't exist before. Boom, here's the ant. Bam, he gets stepped on, squashed, he'll never exist again. Now the ant that got stomped, let's say the ant that got stomped 30 years ago by the kid Joe. You know me. I'm out there on my porch, I see an ant, and I stomp it. Is there any form of that ant that's thinking about, boy, remember the times I crawled on the porch? Well, those were good times. Existing was awesome. No. There's nothing of that ant. It's as if that ant never was. You know, I'm no different than that ant. So sometimes I think, what the hell, man? I get lost in thought and thinking about that, and it's like, why does any of this matter? But it does matter in some regards, because I am here right now. And maybe in the grand scheme of things, nothing matters. It could be true. Maybe my life doesn't matter. You know, when I was young, I believed in destiny. I believed in having a calling. I believed in purpose and reason. Everything had a reason, right? And when I was a kid, I always thought I had a destiny. I was going to do something great. And usually it was always based around religion somehow. Maybe I'm going to be this preacher. I'm going to, do this or that. And God has a plan. That's a big thing, right? God has a plan. And then, so when you lose that belief and you grow up and realize, okay, maybe there isn't a purpose. There's no real such thing as destiny. You're not destined to do anything. Life is what you make of it, or what you can make. Life isn't exactly what you make of it either. That's kind of a lie. Life is what you make of what you have. I got bad news. Not everybody can be a billionaire. Not everybody can have the best life. Some people just have, are dealt a better hand, and some people are dealt crap. And you gotta deal with what you've been given. So maybe there's no purpose, but I think a lot of times, and here we're going to get into the woo. I said this video could get wooey, so put on your seatbelt. I'm not going to really put on the seatbelt because I'm not moving. But put on your seatbelt because it's about to get wooey, right? Guys, I have no idea what happened before the Big Bang. I have no idea what the purpose of any of this is. I have no God belief because I have no reason to believe in it. I believe that all the religions were man-made. They're so obviously man-made. I have no reason to believe there is a God that, other than like the religions we know of. Maybe, you know, some people might say maybe there's a God that there is no holy book out there that tells us about this God, but there is a God out there. I have no reason to believe that. Now, when you say creator, what about creator? I could wrap my head around creator, but I would have no reason to think that the creator was a God. No reason whatsoever to believe that. And looking around, like, I would be more likely to believe in a deistic point of view. I hope I don't get this wrong, but I think it's the deists who believe basically in a God who really doesn't have a direct concern with what we do, right? Kind of like he created us and he's just letting us go, letting us do our thing. And that kind of makes sense, like if you believed in that sort of thing. But in my mind, why would you call that a God? That doesn't have to be, it can, I don't understand why it's a God. It would be the same, like for me, to believe in a creator would be the same as, like, say, simulation theory. People believing we're all in a simulation. Well, wouldn't that be a creator in a sense? And what would be the difference than us being in a simulation, what we call a simulation, and being in this life? Even if everything is organic and it is real the way we think of real, if there's a creator that created us, then no matter what this life is, no matter how real it is, no matter how real the ground is outside, no matter the blood that flows through my veins, it's still no different than a simulation. You're still just, you're a thing that was created by something obviously much bigger and more powerful than we are. But there's no reason to believe that thing has, it could even be watching from afar. It would be like if you're playing a really advanced game of Sims, right? Like super advanced. And maybe our technology is catching up to that. And you create it, and let's say they're not even conscious beings. I'm just talking about regular Sims, right? It's just a computer-generated game. And I create it, and I got all these characters I've created. Like maybe I've only created 50. Okay, that's nothing, right? That's nothing. 50 little bitty characters that crawl around on the screen and do different things. And even though they're programmed and they do like this, and this, now I'm more powerful than they are. If I create it, let's say I actually program the entire thing, I'm that smart. I'm not that smart, but let's just say I was that smart. And I kind of give them things, I program them where they can do random things. Well, even after I do all that, and then I start it and I turn it loose and I create all these characters and I do all these things and I turn them loose in their little town, then I go have a beer. Now, in theory, I leave the game on. The game's sitting there. They're still walking house to house. They're still coming out, getting in their cars and driving around town, and they're doing their little things, and they're fixing supper. However I programmed them just live normal lives, right? They go to work, they do this, they do that. They interact with their neighbors, and it's kind of random. Even though I programmed all that, I'm over here having a beer. I got no idea what's going on back there in my town. No idea whatsoever. Maybe there's something like that. There could be, guys. Who knows? That would be much more believable than any God that's been proposed to me. And, look, the reason I don't believe in your religion is nothing personal. It's just I no longer have any reason to believe it. Right? I look at the evidence, I'm just like, this is, like, read, I'm reading it and it makes no sense, right? So this makes more sense to me. Again, I'm not going to get into religious debate. I'm just not talking more about what I don't believe, talking about what could be possible, okay? And so I keep falling into that. that's what I do most of the time, so it's easy for me to fall into that over and over again. Not going to do it. So the reason I say all that is, if you're an atheist and you need to have hope, you need something to cling to. You just can't deal with the thought of never existing again. I think it's okay to lean on the mystery of the universe. To say, you know what, I have no idea what happened before life, before the Big Bang, before everything started. So why would I pretend to have knowledge of what happens after? Yeah, it seems to me that all I am is right here. Everything that I am, yeah, this body is one thing, but everything's in here. And when I die, this dies. So there's no reason for me to believe that anything in here goes anywhere, that it's ever regenerated in any way. There's no reason for me to believe that there's something in here invisible that escapes, some consciousness, some, what a religious person would call a soul, that it escapes, it goes to some magical place. There's no reason for me to believe that. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know what happens. I'm pretty sure nothing happens, but maybe it's not. Maybe there is something out there. Maybe there is a next step. Maybe there is oh, your game's over. Let me restart you over here. Let me put you in the next simulation. If that's what you need, I think that's okay to hold on to. I think it's okay to wonder about, to talk about. It's not really, I don't feel like that's something I need. As much as non-existing is like weird, I think in an odd way, I think I'm okay with it. Not always. There's days I struggle with it, but there's other days I'm just like, it feel like on your worst days, when you realize life is, the majority of life sucks. Honestly. Like, even in your best week, for me, my best week is just going to work every day and being like, this sucks. This sucks. Life sucks. I just live for those hour or two that I get with my wife and my baby. And then I go to work and I'm like, this sucks. This sucks. Life sucks. Come home, sleep, get an hour or two with your baby. And then the weekend's great. Now I can spend time with my wife and kids. And even if I'm working, I can do some things that I enjoy. So even on the good week, it's like I live for those couple days, It's so weird. And your whole life is like that. And so there's days when you're just like, you know what? Death. Like, I'm not, like, I stress out. You're worried about, how am I going to pay this bill? How, this is even on your good weeks. How am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay that? How are we going to do this? We got to, do this, be here, be there, money, this, that. Like, there's so many things just stressing you out. You're just like, maybe death's not that bad, Like, I would never end it. I'm not saying I would never, but I've never had that desire, like, for suicide, because, and I think the reason being is because I know death is so imminent. It could be here any moment, and it's so certain. Death is so certain. Like, I know death is going to be here, so there's no need for me, if I'm, like, in some of my darkest days, it's like, well, if anything, I can take comfort in the fact that death's not too far away. It's never that far away. But why end it? Like, I get to end it, it's going to be ended soon enough anyway. So even on my dark days, it's like, I'll ride it out. Let's see what happens tomorrow, Because one thing I've learned in life is, no matter how dark it gets, how bleak it gets, 5 years from now, you're probably going to look back and you're going to look back on a completely different person. It seems like you're, like, every 5 years, you can look back and be like, wow, I'm somewhere new. I'm like I don't hardly recognize that person. anymore, you know? So why not, like, you know, in that way, I never really think about uh, uh, ending it, but I always, you know, it just kind of tells me just power on, see what happens. I lost my complete train of thought there. I don't even know why I got sidetracked on suicide. But but life is weird like that, right? Like, you realize, like, there's so many bad days. You just feel like maybe death isn't that bad. That's what I was talking about, right? And sometimes I think the only regret I have about death is that I won't realize I'm dead to enjoy being dead. You know, and you hear some stories. I've heard stories, and there are stories from people who don't believe, who talk about near-death experiences and being gone. And I've heard them where they talk about just kind of being this sense of almost joy and just letting go and like peace and like it's all done, it's all over. But the thing about that is religions hold this monopoly on heaven, right? And this afterlife. And so it's like they hold this monopoly on the happy ending. And because they have that, we got heaven. We can't have it. We can't have any happy endings because they're the majority, and to them, our ending, it isn't enough that they have heaven and we have nothing. They have to slap on hell. So now they have all this, they're happy, they're meeting their loved ones. You get to die and burn in hell forever. Because it's not enough they just be super happy and you have a miserable, pitiful, sad non-existence. You know, you also got to go to hell. But, you know, I don't know. Non-existence might not be bad. Sometimes I think I want to die before any more of my family dies, you know, and it seems like that's the noble thing. Like I'm being noble in saying that, like, because I don't want to, I would rather them be able to live longer. It's like I'm being selfless by saying that. But in a way, I think I'm actually, truthfully, I'm being selfish in saying I want to die, you know. Because I think dying maybe is easier. It'll be easier on me than to have to bury any more of my family. You know, it would be easier for me to go. Like, because I don't think, whatever death is, whatever it is, and I don't know for sure what it is. Nobody knows for sure what it is, because as the old saying goes, nobody's ever come back to tell us about it. So remember that. So anybody who tries to tell you what death is, tell you all about it, they don't know jack. They didn't go there and they didn't come back. And the people that say they did, they're probably just trying to sell a book or a movie made about a book. But so I don't know what death is, but I don't believe it's bad. You know, it may not be great, there may not be a heaven, there may not be any of that, but I don't think it's bad. And I think we can all believe that, and we can all say that and speak from experience, because every single one of us have experienced non-existence. It wasn't that bad, guys. 1978 wasn't that bad. If you're older than I am, you might remember 1978 and be like, 1978 sucked for me. Like, I was having a really bad year. Guess what? I wasn't. Everything was peachy. I didn't have a problem in the world. I wasn't there. Hey, have you ever heard the pro-life argument? People arguing for pro-life, and they'll say, what if your mom aborted you? I wouldn't, like, that argument doesn't work on me. Like, me not existing doesn't work. Because I can use the same argument. If you have 5 kids, I got news for you. There's a 6th kid. There is a living, breathing person that could be here and would be alive and well and would go to school and laugh and have a girlfriend and grow up and get married or what, and work over here and do all this, but boom, he doesn't exist because you decided 5 kids was enough. You heartless bastard. Wow. Well, I'm really going off on a tangent now. I started this video just talking about how afraid I am of death. And you know what? I said I'm making this video because I can't afford a therapist. And I've been talking for almost an hour. And guess what? I didn't have to pay any money, and I do feel better. I really feel better. It's like I have no answers, and every so often I kind of talk myself through this because I think about it, and it's scary. Like, death is scary. And, but ultimately, I think when I talk myself through it, like talking about it right now, when I get done actually talking about it and really just sorting it out and going through my thoughts on it, I realize I'm not really that afraid of death. I'm intrigued by it. I really, like, what do I believe? Like, I know I left it open, like, oh, maybe there's this, or maybe there's that, or maybe, there could be anything, and if you need that, but what do I believe? I'm gonna believe, like, I don't have a definite belief about, a definite belief, but to the best of my knowledge, if I'm being honest, I think when the lights go out, they go out. I go to sleep one last time, and that's it. And, like I said, it's not really that bad. It's worse for the people left behind. And then if the lights come back on, and it's a do-over and it's a start over, then all I can say is I hope the next game is I hope it's as good as this was on its good days. I hope there's as much love and happiness and all that, but maybe a little less of the heartache, right? Be fine by me. But if there's something else on the other side, I'll deal with it when I get there. I'll live, love, hurt, whatever I have to do, whatever it is. And it would be great if there was another side of my family was there. But also, sometimes the thoughts of, let's say there is a heaven, or let's just say there's an afterlife. It doesn't have to be heaven. Like, they just say it's not even perfect, but it's just life continues, all right? And it doesn't start over fresh, like no memory of this life. It's just a continuation where I'm aware of my past life. And then I slowly become aware that it never ends. There's just a continue, like I live forever. Maybe my next life is immortal. Is there a point where you just get tired of living? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, it would have to really be perfect. Like, what kind of life would it have to be where you would never get tired of it? I don't, like, I'm trying to imagine that. Like, there's no theory. I've never heard anybody describe heaven to me where I'm like, yeah, I would like to live there forever. Now, think about it. Think about, like, 100 years in. And you're like, oh, man, okay, I'm starting to get bored. Now think about 1 trillion years in. I don't know. It's just, it would have to be better than what they've described. But I'm probably, my the option I chose was non-existence. So that's probably what I get. And that's not so bad, guys. Not existing is not so bad. I know probably a lot of people, especially religious people, are like, oh, that's so sad. Like, how can you believe that? Well, here's the thing. I've said it over and over. whether or not what I believe is sad doesn't make it more true or less true. If I believe something that, hey guys, I believe when you die, you wake up in a big bowl of Lucky Charms that's full of marshmallows, and you get to eat all the marshmallows you want for as long as you want. And then whenever you're done wanting to do that, you just go poof, and you're in a big bowl of Cocoa Puffs. And that sounds great. Doesn't make it more true. Why is my vision of heaven waking up in a bowl of cereal? That's weird. I didn't think, really? I try to think of an alternate paradise, and my brain goes to, that's in my brain. A big bowl of cereal. Just being in a big bowl of cereal. I don't even eat Lucky Charms. When I do eat cereal, I do eat Cocoa Puffs. I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or whatever it is. Captain Crunch. If I'm not doing Cocoa Puffs, I swing over to Captain Crunch. Yeah, because who gives a heck? Why worry about the roof of your mouth? Just rip it to shreds. It's worth it every now and then. But I guess that's about all I had to say. Just want to let you guys know that sometimes I'm afraid to die, and sometimes life has no meaning. But then I talk about it, and I'm like, I'm not so afraid to die, and life probably still has no meaning. But I know what I was going to say earlier. I think I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid of how I die. The thoughts of going inside, laying down, and going to sleep, and then just not waking up. That terrified me. Because like I said, I can't leave the house without, giving hugs and kisses and bye, and I need that, that closure. And for some reason, I thought dying like that, it was just so horrible because you didn't have that closure. I wasn't able to hug you goodbye and tell you goodbye, and I wanted to know I was dying so I could tell you goodbye. Now I realize how little that matters, and what matters most is how you live your life while you're alive. How I treat my wife and my kid while I'm alive, while death feels like it's still way over here. That's what's important. That's what my wife will remember. That's what the people I know will remember about me. They won't remember, or if I know I'm dying, what I say to them the day before I die or hours before I die has very little meaning compared to how I talked to them, how I treated them, my whole life. So just focus on that. Focus on being a better person, while you're still here, while you still got your health. And then if I go in there and I lay down and I close my eyes and I don't wake up, man, there probably isn't a better way to go. And that's what lately, the thoughts of having that sentence, kind of like this thing with my stepdad. I'm gonna be honest, I probably would have already asked the doctors if it was me. What am I looking at here? But I might not, because I don't know if I want to know that. I don't, and a lot of times it means nothing. A lot of times they give you 3 months and you live 10 years. And they might give you 5 years and you live, 2 weeks. You don't know. But to me, knowing that and just facing it down is kind of torment. And hopefully you make the best of it and you can get some joy out of those last days, and it could be a good thing, I guess. But to me, if I just went in there and laid down and went to sleep, and tomorrow morning I just wasn't, that was the end of old Joe. That's peaceful. I could live with that. Not really. But you know, it's just something I think about a lot. Life and death. And I have bored you guys for way too long, and I'm going to get off here. I've been rambling well over an hour. I don't know if I even have the time to edit this. You'll know, because right now it's been going like an hour and 6 minutes. So if this video is shorter than that, you know I edited something out of it. If not, I'm probably just too lazy to. So I'm going to get off here. You guys have a great time during your life, and I hope that I don't think I said anything that is going to make you less afraid of death. Hopefully I didn't make you more afraid of death. And if you have some words of encouragement to me or other people, like, hey, here's why I don't fear death. Because, you know, I did like just a real quick kind of search and videos and this and that of like death and you know, the fear of death and stuff like that. And what you get, it seems like mostly is, hey, are you afraid of death? I have, you know, the answer to take away your fear. And then they're either trying to, one dude, I was like, oh man, like he started out and he was like, well, religion's I figured out religion's BS. You know, like, oh, what's this guy have to say? Turns out he had a book to sell, and it was religion. Like, you know, he tells you religion's BS, but then in the end it was like, I kind of skipped ahead because I was getting bored. You know, it's like, I figured out, like, this guy's trying to sell something. And it's like he found the answer in the Bible. See, guys, it's not religion, it's the answer's in the Bible. And it turns out it's free. It's not free, actually. It costs you 10% of your gross income. Not free. But, and so he's telling you how to get to heaven. Even though he just said it's BS the way all these people have rules and stuff. But he didn't tell you. He's like, if you want to know, you gotta buy his book. Like, dude, that's cold, man. It's like, oh, are you currently on your way to hell? Well, I got great news. I have a way to stop that. You could go to hell tomorrow. I have all the answers to prevent that from happening. First, buy my book. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you on this video. You gotta buy my book. You sly old devil. Maybe I need to buy a book. I mean, not buy a book. Maybe I need to write a book. Hey, are you afraid of going to hell? I have the answer of how to prevent that. Buy my book. And then I just, like, it's like a one-page book. It's like, hell doesn't exist. You're okay. Go back to sleep. Guys, I gotta go to bed. It's late. What time is it? It's 15 minutes after 3 in the morning. Gotta go to work tomorrow. I work second shift though, so I don't have to go to work till like, I don't leave the house till 2, so. Anyway, thanks for letting me ramble. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.